All right, welcome back. Hope you all had a happy new year and set some great resolutions for what's going to be a extremely successful 2025. It's looking like in regards to Pokemon. Today we're going to just go over some of the sets from Sword and Shield through Scarlet and Violet. Obviously Sun and Moon and XY are doing great, but we're going to go over Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet pretty much across the board. We've seen a lot of upticks. We're just going to sort of have a healthy discussion around the state of the market, especially around the state of the price of some of these booster boxes. I'm not going to go as much into the buying and selling of things, but just sort of across the board give you a lay of the land where we're at currently in January of 2025. And we're just going to be going over the mainline sets today with booster boxes. We're not going to be covering specialty sets. I may do that in another video. But yeah, we'll be covering Sword and Shield era from the end of Sword and Shield, starting with Silver Tempest through Sword and Shield base with booster box sets, and then we'll go to Scarlet and Violet from Surging Sparks all the way back to Scarlet and Violet base. So starting out with Silver Tempest, obviously Silver Tempest booster boxes sold out on Pokemon Center a couple weeks ago. They went from 143 to 220 now a booster box, which is crazy. I definitely missed out on them, even though people were posting about them in Discord saying they have 3,000 boxes left, they have 2,000 boxes left, but I just said I'm going to ignore this for now and obviously regret that later on. But, you know, it's still not a bad box at 220, I think. Obviously, the set is kind of carried by the Lugia V alt art in terms of the main set here. We also have the Trainer Gallery, which the Rayquaza VMAX has started to pop off a lot. Probably can't see that on screen. Let me move my bubble over. So the Rayquaza VMAX has obviously popped off a bit. It pretty much shot up from $42 or $43 raw to now $57 raw. The Blaziken VMAX and Blaziken V could be worth taking a closer look at in the future. They're sitting around $11 to $12 raw right now, but there's not much depth in the rest of the Silver Tempest Trainer Gallery for now. Moving on to Lost Origin, obviously we have the Giratina V, which is sitting at $530. It's kind of been around that $500 price range for a while now, so it's not too crazy. Obviously, it's getting in that price range where I wouldn't really be buying these online or off TCG Player as near mint unless I could see them in person or trusted someone that had a bunch of good pictures of them, because a lot of these you'll get very off-centered and or have some blemishes that you can't really see as clearly in pictures. The Lost Origin booster box is sitting at $356, which is definitely a big jump up from a couple weeks ago. It was at $275, I think, for a while, or for, you know, again, it's moving so fast that when I say it was sitting like that for a while, I really mean like a couple of weeks. I still like that Aerodactyl V at $105. Again, similar to Silver Tempest, sort of the Giratina is the bulk of the main set. You also have the Lost Origin Trainer Gallery, which I think is actually much better than Silver Tempest. You have Pikachu VMAX, Pikachu V, which have gone to $44 and $30 respectively. The ones that I would be taking a look at, honestly, and keeping an eye on are these next couple. The Gengar, Pikachu, Charizard, and the Snorlax, actually. I would be keeping an eye on those four cards specifically just because they are very popular Pokemon. These cards are actually really hard to grade as well. I haven't personally graded any, but if you go look at the PSA 10 pop reports, I think they're like 30 to 40%, if not lower, PSA 10s. So these are going to definitely see some movement probably in the next couple weeks. Keep your eyes on those. Also, obviously, the two Pikachus that we touched on in the beginning, I actually am still a fan of them at that price. So yeah, that's Lost Origin. Let's move on to Astral Radiance. So Astral Radiance has now crossed $200 a booster box. It was like $195 last week, I think. So now we're at $205, which is pretty awesome. Machamp V at $124. And then you have Origin Form Dialga at $48 and Origin Form Palkia at $42. This set actually has a little bit better depth in terms of the alt arts, but still not. It's kind of a mid-tier, upper middle tier Sword and Shield era set. I do think some of these cards probably have a little bit of room to grow, but as far as the booster box, I still don't mind it at that 200-ish price range currently. But yeah, that's where we're at with Astral Radiance. It does have the single most expensive Trainer Gallery card, which is the Starmie V. It has now crossed $70, which is crazy. The Garchomp V is also moving at $37, and then it has a steep drop off to the Zacian V, which is actually one of my favorite artworks, but does not seem to get a lot of love currently. Now, my personal pick right now is still going to be Brilliant Stars. Brilliant sitting at $243 a booster box. Charizard V has crossed $194 Doesn't have as much depth in the set, obviously. You have the Arceus, but the Trainer Gallery is the bread and butter of this set, I think. I mean, I didn't really call these plays, but the Umbreon V and the Sylveon V have moved up a little bit. I think the Umbreon probably jumped like $10, and then the Sylveon a few dollars. Same with the Umbreon V and the regular Umbreon V and Sylveon V Trainer Galleries. Those have both jumped up about $5, $6. The Mimikyu I'd probably be keeping my eyes on, still keeping my eyes on the Umbreons and Sylveons. The ones that I've been making plays on recently, which I'll make a separate video on, is actually these four down here, the other Eeveelution Trainer Galleries. First of all, they were all, I mean, they're still kind of all close to $5 a piece, but, you know, Vaporeon's at $7, the others are at around $6. I started buying a bunch of these in bulk off market. Again, I will make another video about that soon. But one of the reasons is obviously we have Prismatic Evolutions coming up, which I think will give some love to some of these older Trainer Galleries or Eeveelutions from Sword and Shield era, possibly. Another factor is similar to the Lost Origin Trainer Galleries we were talking about with the Gengar, Pikachu, Charizard, Snorlax. A lot of these yellow border cards are really difficult to grade. A lot of these Eeveelution ones, the Vaporeon, Flareon, Eevee, Jolteon, have really low PSA 10 rates. They're like 600 PSA 10s out of like 2,500 graded. It's like 30% or something like that. So definitely I would be keeping my eyes on Brilliant Stars, and especially the Brilliant Stars Trainer Gallery. Again, similar to Astral Radiance and Silver Tempest, I don't mind these booster boxes in the low to mid 200s right now. That is not me telling you to buy them. That is just saying that I personally wouldn't mind grabbing a few if I had extra cash laying around and didn't want to be constantly flipping. I do like the booster box still at that price. Now, obviously, the one that's probably being talked about the most is Fusion Strike. The booster box is sitting at $475, which is crazy. The Gengar VMAX Alt Art has crossed Giratina once again to $541 in Near Mint Raw. Absolutely insane. Espeon sitting at $241, Mew at $120. So Mew's seen some moves. The Celebi, which I also was starting to call, has moved a decent amount in both Raw and PSA 10 price. I moved one of those at the show I was vending last weekend for $200, which is crazy. And then the Mew V is sitting at 48, and the VMAX Secret sitting at 45. So there's a decent amount of depth to Fusion Strike, and it's getting the love that I guess it deserved for a long time. So the next one, without needing any explanation, is Evolving Skies. We have $1,000 booster boxes, $1,400 Moonbreon Raw Near Mint, Rayquaza sitting at $542, Leafeon VMAX $324, and then the Glaceon and Sylveon VMAX coming close behind it at $264 and $258. The Umbreon V at $205, Dragonite V at $180. Probably one of the biggest movers recently, I think, is the Rayquaza V. I think this card jumped up from like $110 or $120 maybe. I could be wrong. Okay, $125 about 2 weeks ago to now $160. So yeah, definitely a big move on that Rayquaza Espeon V. So again, I already covered this in the last video when I skipped over the set because I'm just like pretty much every single one of these cards in Evolving is moving very quickly along with the booster box. Chilling Rain, or as people used to call it, Chilling Pain. So what's interesting here is that the Blaziken VMAX Alt Art is at $308, and the booster box has also crossed $300, which last video I made, I think it was still at like $280 or something. So they're pretty much the same price, $308. The Galarian Moltres is pretty much the same as the last video I did. It's sitting at $150-ish. I don't know how the Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX is as expensive as it is at $78. I personally like some of the other cards like the Galarian Articuno, Zeraora V a little bit more as alt art alternatives, but you know, the market does what the market does. So I guess people are Shadow Rider Calyrex fans. Moving on, we obviously have Battle Styles sitting at $143 on TCG Player. It's pretty much the exact same as Pokemon Center, so that could be something to keep an eye on in the future. Tyranitar V sitting at $155, Urshifu at $60, and then it drops off to the Empoleon at $35. Now, an interesting one to keep an eye on as well, I think, honestly, I never thought I'd be saying this, but it's Vivid Voltage. They're sitting at $160 on TCG Player. They are still available on Pokemon Center at $143. So keep that in mind. I think I saw from someone who has access to that PokeNotify server that there's around 10,000-ish booster boxes on Pokemon Center at that $143 price range. I think you can still buy them by the case. So I think that comes out to like $900 a case or something like that. So just keep your eyes on this set. I may make a video on these earlier Sword and Shield era sets in the future because I think there could be some potential plays here. that might not be as obvious. The Pikachu VMAX Secret Chonkachu sitting at 133, and then the set drops off drastically. After that, we have Darkness Ablaze, 175 a box. The Charizard VMAX has jumped up to $30, but that's really not very much movement. I would probably be staying away from Darkness Ablaze personally, but if I had any sealed booster boxes of it, I would be probably just sitting on those, and then there might be some plays coming in the future with the Charizard VMAX, because I think it's like almost $100 in a PSA 10. It's maybe even crossed that, so it might be worth it to look into those as well. Rebel Clash sitting at $231 a booster box. The top chase is the Boss's Orders full art at $53. And, you know, there could be a play with that for the Giovanni cards moving into Team Rocket, but I'm not going to say anything on that for now. But yeah, it's a good looking card and terrible set overall, probably. But maybe, you know, maybe in the future we'll say it's a good set. So who knows? And then Sword and Shield base, kind of the same thing. The card, the top chase is the Snorlax at $42, and then it drops off to the Marnie full art, which is a really nice card, but that's at $31. The booster box is at $331. I personally would not be picking these up for myself. I'd rather make plays on a Chilling Reign box before a Sword and Shield era base box, but that's not to say that this can't go up a larger percentage than Chilling Reign in a shorter amount of time, because it does seem like there is less of this set out there in comparison. All right, starting Scarlet and Violet now, we have Surging Sparks, which is at a whopping $247 a booster box. Pikachu at $480 almost. Latias $250. Milotic $130. Again, I probably wouldn't be actively seeking out Surging Sparks with people thinking that it's going to get a reprint, but I will say I think a lot of people are giving these reprints too much credit for these newer era sets, because they're acting as if this is going to get like completely blown out of the water, and I just don't see how Pokemon can ramp up to meet the demand. But who knows? They did it with Sword and Shield era for Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike, Lost Origin, Brilliant Stars, I think they maybe did it for. Everyone's kind of treading lightly, but at the same time, you know, this set continues to rise, so who knows how much it'll actually fall when if and when it does get a reprint. Stellar Crown sitting at $150 a box almost. Holy. Squirtle at $60, Terapagos $76, Bulbasaur at $48. I like the Bulbasaur and Squirtle still. I think there are probably better buys at $150 than Stellar, especially with how new it is, but that's just me. Twilight Masquerade, still absolutely on a tear. Booster boxes have crossed $170 again. Greninja sitting at $320. Eevee at $76. That is crazy. Eevee is approaching $80 raw. That is nuts. It has a $10 lead on the Carmine, which for a long time was the second most expensive card. So it looks like Eevee is not slowing down. I don't think heading into Prismatic that this card is going to see any decline in demand probably. So keep your eye on the Eevee, I guess. And as for the rest of the set, I wouldn't be too in the weeds on it for now. Temporal Forces is a little bit more of an interesting one. They're sitting at $147 a box. I know I previously have made some videos saying this is my favorite set for SIRs especially, and I still stand by that. The one thing I will mention is that there has been some rumors, and this is just, you know, speculation. This is not me knowing anything more than anyone else. This is just rumors based on what I've heard from some people saying that apparently, again, with that Poke Notify tool that people are using, they could see over 20,000 plus booster boxes of Temporal Forces on the Pokemon Center, which was not previously that high in stock before. I am not telling you to sell your Temporal Forces off. All I'm merely saying is that there could be a Temporal Forces resupply in the near future, and that could be also why people are the Raging Bolt and the Iron Crown especially have seen some pretty volatile price movement recently. Raging Bolt went up to close to 110 and back down to 93. The Iron Crown went up till north of like $85 and now is back to $63. So I don't know if it's speculation. I don't know if people know something that I don't know. I'm just saying to be aware that there could be some strings being pulled for Temporal Forces that we're not all privy to. But still, even if there is a resupply to the market and it's a sizable one, I think Temporal Forces is still a good long-term play for the sealed booster boxes. All right, moving on to Paradox Rift. We are sitting at $140 a box for Paradox on TCG Player. Groudon at $68, Roaring Moon at $58. Those two cards have kind of been in that price range for a long time. Same with the Altaria at $33. The Iron Valiant's gone down a bit to $28. Still one of my favorite SIRs, especially after I got to hold it in person. I will probably be looking to pick up an Altaria soon because I have multiple of the Roaring Moon and the Groudon. I do not have the Altaria. I don't know if there's any IRs here to keep in mind. I don't know. We'll start seeing some of these earlier set IRs that have been absolutely on a tear. I may make a separate video on them because I think they're a really interesting topic to discuss. Next up, we have Obsidian Flames, which has crossed 150 a booster box. That is crazy. A lot of people are speculating that there shouldn't be any more booster box resupplies or reprints for Obsidian. That would be very interesting if that's true because it is absolutely on a tear. The Charizard is sitting at $67 currently, and the Gold Charizard at $26, and the Ninetales is starting to push beyond the $20 price point that it's previously set. So it's sitting at $21. The Cleffa making some moves into the $16 price range. I haven't actually checked PSA 10s on the Cleffa. I'm assuming that's why it's going up. Same with the Scizor. This thing was sitting at $3 for many, many months, and then it was sitting at $6 for many, many months, and now it is sitting at $12. So it is definitely on the move. I know that one is especially difficult to grade in a PSA 10. Coming down to the last two sets here, we have Paldea Evolved and then Scarlet and Violet Base. I will just go out and say it. If you're watching this far, I think Paldea Evolved and Scarlet and Violet Base are currently the most interesting Scarlet and Violet era sets for a few reasons. One, the Paldea Evolved booster box is about to cross $200. It is at $196, which is absolutely bonkers. We have the Magikarp at $213, the Iono at $62, but look at this. The Raichu has now surpassed the Tyranitar and become the third most expensive card in the set. It is at $50 for this IR. I haven't checked the PSA 10 prices. I know they were at like $220 or $250 for a while, but maybe it's gone higher. So it is surpassed the Tyranitar. I have a feeling that this card and possibly the Tyranitar will even surpass the Iono at some point. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But yeah, definitely keep your eyes on these. They've seen some big jumps last couple weeks. Similarly, Tyranitar is close behind it at $48. The Meryl needs no explanation. This thing is on an absolute tear. $34 raw. Same with the Maushold. Actually, it is at $22 raw. A lot of these illustration rares are really starting to push past a lot of these special illustration rares and have started to cement themselves as the top cards in a lot of these Scarlet Violet era sets because of the PSA 10 value and how difficult they are to grade. So Paldea is looking very, very healthy, very strong. Holy shit, did the Magikarp jump $3 since I flipped pages like 20 seconds ago? Someone must have bought the lowest list or something. I don't know. It's at $216 now. Okay, we're going to move on. That's crazy. Paldea, absolute banger set. So one of the most interesting ones right now is Scarlet Violet Base. When I wrote my notes for this video or for another video I was going to make, I was like, oh, I think Scarlet Violet Base is probably the best play in Scarlet Violet era right now because it's the only box still under 120 a booster box. That was about a week ago. That is no longer the case. It is at 133 a booster box on TCG players. Massive moves for Scarlet Violet Base. Also, a lot of the singles, a lot of the IRs, absolutely on a tear. So the two top SIRs in the set, the Gardevoir at $46 and the Miriam at $44 have been on some moves, but the current biggest movers are definitely the IRs. The Drowsy has pretty much doubled in the past couple weeks from like $15 to $16 all the way up to $33 raw. I think it's like $250 to $300 in a PSA 10, so that's absolutely nuts. Same with the Ralts, which has pretty much steadily been climbing from 14 to 16 to 18 to 20 to 25. Now it's at $28, almost a $30 card. Curlia at $25, Miraidon SIR at $20. The Slowpoke similarly and the Riolu are at almost $20 and $16 respectively. So a lot of these earlier era SV IRs are very difficult to grade, and the difficulty to grade them is being reflected in their singles prices as people are trying to buy them and make that grading play. So yeah, that's all we'll cover in this video. We'll check back in maybe next month to see where all the booster boxes and the singles are sort of at. This market is absolutely on fire right now. I don't know for Scarlet Violet era which sets to be making plays on necessarily. The ones that I'm really watching the closest are, like I said, Paldea and Scarlet Violet Base right now, just because of the IR movement. But a lot of the newer sets, I don't know what the future holds for them in regards to Pokemon and what they're going to be printing. So I'd be a little bit more cautious with those SV04, 5, 6, 7, 8 onward. But, you know, the market is looking really strong right now. It doesn't look like it's slowing down heading into Prismatic in the next week and a half. Hope you all, again, had a happy new year and buckle up because it's going to get spicy in a couple weeks here. So thank you all for watching. Please leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, comment which set you think could have some potential growth. Comment your sleeper pick for Sword and Shield and your sleeper pick for Scarlet Violet era. Let me know what you think, and I will reply back to you and say what my opinion is. And other than that, thank you all for watching. I will catch you guys in a new one soon. Peace.